Hi, this is S.G. Brownlow. Today I want to talk a little bit about overcoming your limiting beliefs. People have a lot of what I think funny ideas about that. There's this kind of sense that a belief is a belief and we can just overcome it by thinking about it differently. And so there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time trying to reprogram themselves directly. They catch themselves and it's like, I don't believe that, I believe this. I believe this. And if they repeat it often enough, then maybe they'll really believe it. And I think to some extent that works. But really what happens, what I've seen happen over and over, and what the data that I've seen say happens over and over, is that when you try to tell yourself something that you're not completely convinced of, deep down, then what happens is that you can do whatever you tell yourself really well as long as you're not under a lot of stress. But once stressful situations hit, you kind of revert to what you knew was true before. You go back to pattern. That's a problem when you're trying to change your life, when you're trying to transform your life and do different things. You don't want things to work only when things are easy. You want them to work when the situation's difficult. And so changing a belief in a situation like that becomes really important. You want it to work all the time. The way to do that is to understand a little bit about how these beliefs were created. And essentially the way a belief is created is that it's created due to an emotional experience. And some of our most significant beliefs, the ones that really affect us the most deeply, are the ones that came about due to significant emotional experiences when we were really young. And by really young, I mean like 2 and 3 years old. We learn to believe certain things. And if you've ever been around a 3-year-old, I'm saying you know this, 3-year-olds don't think very clearly. 4-year-olds don't think very clearly. Their thinking is very magical. And if this happens, then this is going to happen. And none of it really makes sense. From an adult perspective, it makes perfect sense to a 3-year-old. But what happens with us is we develop these beliefs that have that same kind of magical thinking. And they're basically our way to try to avoid dealing with that kind of emotional pain again. Well, what happens is that we're not set up to avoid emotional pain. We're actually set up to learn from emotional pain and adjust our lives because of emotional pain and overcome and master that pain so that we don't have to deal with it anymore, so that we can heal ourselves and become the loving, compassionate, spiritual people that we were intended to be. What happens instead is we get into this trap of trying to avoid our pain. And so because we avoid our pain, we never really look at those original beliefs. Now, if we looked at our pain and we saw it for what it was, and we saw it as a perspective, not of 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds, but of 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds or 50-year-olds, if we looked at it with this fresh perspective of being an adult rather than a 3-year-old, then our beliefs that go along with it, we would see for being the crazy, magical 3-year-old thinking that they are. But because we don't look at them, we never question it. We just assume that it's true. And so something that makes sense to you when you're 3 years old, I'm never going to be any good at this. Nobody cares about me. Nobody could ever care about me. That may make sense when you're 3, but with a lifetime of experience, you can look at that and realize that it's just crazy. It's just completely crazy. But the only way to change it is to go back and look at those experiences, which means you have to go back and deal with that pain once and for all. Now, your unconscious mind is very eager for you to do that. It's why you keep experiencing those same pains in your life now. It's why you keep getting stuck at the same place over and over. It's why you keep having these same feelings over and over of not being good enough or whatever, and you keep butting into that belief. But it's not the belief that's the problem. The belief doesn't cause the feeling. It's avoiding the feeling that's bringing back up the belief. And so that's what we have to do. We have to go in and deal with the feeling. So if you're relating to this, if I'm describing something that you've been going through where you realize that you just keep butting into the same thing over and over, you feel crummy, you have these beliefs that you know that are crazy, that there's something wrong with you, you can't do things, that you're not good enough, whatever the belief is for you, but you don't, and you've tried everything, you've tried all the stuff in good faith, but it hasn't worked for you. There's a good reason for that. So when you're ready, email me. Just respond to this. Let me know. Let's figure out how we can help you. You deserve better than this. Just do it soon. Do it this week. And I'll see you next week with another video.